Alright everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me once more for another go of Umineko. It feels like the ritual once more is happening, considering we're already about midway through episode 3. So, looks like all the fun's going to happen again, guys. And if anything else, I want to thank you all for your love and support, and hope you all continue to enjoy, because it's about to get messy once more. So if anything else, we're going to continue on. Let's start this. Alright everyone, and we are back. The most forbidden action in tarot reading is to try predicting the same thing twice. It is a desecration to the result of the fortune telling, and also desecrates the existence higher than humans which delivers signs through the tarot cards. However, Kinzo knew. The reason the tarot card shouldn't be used twice was that since it was nothing more than a random number generator, it was natural that if you read them twice, a different result would appear. Therefore, reading twice was only forbidden to preserve the mystique of the tarot card's results. However, that didn't mean that Kinzo didn't take tarot reading seriously. Kinzo's interpretation of tarot reading was done in a completely different way. That was to repeat the reading over and over until he reached the result most favorable to him, without the slightest amount of compromise. It would depend on how he defined the result most favorable to him. But if he demanded the best result in a strict sense, it would be the same as a simple roulette of luck, where he sought an arithmetic miracle. However, to Kinzo, who made miracles of numbers the basis of his magical power, this could become very much like a magical ritual. In other words, until the result he desired appeared perfectly, he would repeat the tarot readings over and over, turning his labor, conviction, and the feelings of his heart into a prayer, so that when it reached heaven, the result would be sublimated. This was Kinzo's personal magical interpretation. Therefore, even though the tarot cards Kinzo used were exactly the same as generally used tarot cards, the way they were used was completely different. Kinzo stopped his hands for a second. It seemed the result he expected wasn't showing up. On the contrary, many bad cards that shouldn't often appear were appearing repeatedly, and continuing to interfere with the miracle Kinzo wished for. It seemed that Kinzo had taken some kind of sign from this abnormal course of events, but judging by the unlucky cards scattered over the desk, it was difficult to imagine that the sign had been a good one. For a while, Kinzo closed his eyes tightly, pondering something. Then, as the thunder roared, he made his mind about something, took the telephone receiver and dialed. In front of the main entrance, Shannon was cooling her flushed face in the frigid air. She had a thought, that George's proposal would surely come sometime. It wasn't as if her heart had been unprepared, and she had nodded as an answer. Had she been reckless because of her youth? Should she have thought about her future more seriously? She found herself worrying that he might have thought of her as a cheap girl because of her immediate reply. Perhaps at least holding off until tomorrow morning would have given the impression of thinking more seriously. Now that she had already received the ring from George, Shannon kept fidgeting in embarrassment, thinking she should have done this, should have done that. As she did, she heard the sound of footsteps coming towards her, splashing through puddles. Shannon immediately chased away the emotions welling up inside her.
Genji-sama? Kanon-kun mo... すみません。すぐに戻らなくて、
She grew stiff, thinking that she would surely be scolded for spending too much time in her secret lover's meeting with George.
シャノ、親方様が至急書斎へ来るようにとの仰せだ。急ぐ。
はい、かしこまりました。一体何事なの？
不吉な予感がするってさ。自分で儀式を起こしておいて都合のいい話さ。
大田に気取られぬよう裏から入る。足音に気をつける。
はい、姉さん注意して。姉さんは賑やかだから。
Kondo was especially good at hiding his presence, like he was a cat. he was able to suddenly be there without anyone noticing, and leave in the same way. So even if he were to step in the puddle, the sound he would make would be far smaller than that of the rain hitting the puddles. Genji also had that ability. Well, in the first place, that was how the servants were supposed to be, even going by the name of furniture. Just like how desks and closets go unnoticed by members of the family, the servants also treated being able to show up unobtrusively when they needed to as their greatest virtue. In that sense, Shannon's footsteps will strongly assert themselves. She was also trying to hide her footsteps, but compared to Kanon and Genji, well, you could say she was a little more lively. Eventually, they reached the back door and the three of them entered the mansion. Immediately, they thought they felt something. It wasn't quite a sense of smell, rather, they felt it from the depths of their noses. And this hard to describe sensation, which you might call a sixth sense, allowed them to perceive that something was different than usual.
源氏様。
急ぐぞ。
That perception caused them to feel that something tense was closing in on them. Realizing that, the three of them dashed up the stairs, aiming for Kinzo's study, still hiding their footsteps. When they dashed up the stairs, that smell of sweet poison particular to Kinzo's study reached their noses.
いかがなさいましたか、源氏様。
結界が死んでいる。
After hearing Kanon, she looked at the door to the study. A scorpion pattern was engraved on the doorknob, a powerful magic repellent, the final barrier which protected Kinzo himself. It had been broken. Of course, there was no change to the doorknob that the eye could see. However, they could understand things that people couldn't perceive, were able to recognize the dramatic change.
親方様。親方様。源氏でございます。ここをお開けください。
Genji called in this way after knocking several times, but there was no answer from the study.
シャノン、背中を守れ。カノン、室内を探れ。
はい。
Kanon put his ear against the door, searching for a presence inside the study. To protect the backs of the other two who were watching the door, Shannon faced the other way with her back to them, prepared for the unexpected.
親方様はいらっしゃられるはずです。ですが、静かすぎます。
ご無事だということか。
いいえ、静かがすぎます。
まさか、そんな。
親方様、扉を失礼させていただきます。
Genji pulled a gold key out of his pocket. It was the only key to the study that existed other than the one Kinzo held. He stuck it in the keyhole and turned it heavily. At a glance, that would have indicated that it really was a strong lock. However, the fact that the barrier had been destroyed meant that this door had long been wide open for anyone with magical power. The lock made a heavy sound, indicating that the door had been opened to humans as well.
失礼いたします。
As Genji respectfully bowed his head, and Kanon's sense of tension grew tighter, and Shannon acted nervous, they entered the study. They immediately discovered Kinzo's figure. He was sitting in a reception sofa so that his back faced them. Genji noticed the person sitting across from him and again bowed deeply. Kanon also noticed that person, and he didn't bow his head. He went in front of Shannon and spread both arms blocking the way to her. So without even seeing that person's face, Shannon already had a good idea who it was.
お越しでございましたか。ベアトリーチェ様。
源氏か。なかなかに早いな。やはり家具は、主の呼びかけに素早く応える方が良い。
That's odd. In episode 2, she couldn't break the barrier, or probably didn't bother, and here she finally entered and met up with Kinzo. That is, if Kinzo isn't dead.
こやつとは大違いだ。
ロノエ様もお越しでしたか。
Genji directed his greeting towards the thin darkness behind and to the right of Beatrice where nothing appeared to be. Even Kanon and Shannon couldn't have imagined that someone would be there. However, the darkness answered immediately and praised Genji's eyesight.
相変わらずさすがです。だいぶの久しぶりになりますね。それにしても老けましたね。それだけの弱いを重ねましたか。充実した日々を過ごしております。ロノエ様におかれましても、ますます充実されておりますようお見受けいたします。ええ、おかげさまです。そしてシャノンも久しぶりですね。君は随分と美しくなった。そして随分と強くなったようですね。良いことです。
ありがとうございます。
姉さん、あいつは一体。
カノン君とは会うのは初めてになりますね。私はベアトリーチェ様の家具頭を任されておりますロノウエと申します。源氏さんの古い馴染みですよ。あなたと同じに私も家具です。使える主は異なりますが。
The color of tension didn't disappear from Kanon's expression in the slightest. Serving under a different master, furniture could become kind, brutal, or anything else as desired. If he called himself furniture serving the hated Beatrice, then surely he was a despicable being as well.
わらわもすっかり嫌われたものだ。坊主憎ければ今朝までなんとかとはよく言ったものよ。
Beatrice openly sneered at Kanon's hate-filled face. Then Kanon finally observed. Beatrice and Kinzo were enjoying a chess game sitting in facing reception sofas, but Kinzo hadn't even quivered. He was holding his head with both hands, his eyes closed tight as he contemplated his next move. No, was he in anguish?
親方様。
わらわが金蔵に伝えたのは2つ。良い知らせと悪い知らせだった。良い知らせは、儀式を終えずしてわらわと再会できる幸運を得たこと。悪い知らせは、金蔵が儀式の一番最初の生贄に選ばれてしまったことだ。こればかりはわらわにもどうしようもない。実に気まぐれにルーレットにて決めたのだから。
嘘をつけ。もてあそんで殺しているくせに。
よして、カノン君。
さて、金蔵。そろそろ負けを認める気になったのか？これにて、わらわとの長きにわたる勝負は、決着だな。
At a glance, you couldn't tell the current situation on that chaotic chessboard. However, judging from Kinzo's anguish and Beatrice's malicious relaxedness, it looked as though it was already decided.
是非もなし。これもまた一興か。
わらわもだ。そなたとの勝負に決着がつくことは、万感の思いあれど、もはや恩衆を超える。楽しかったぞ。退屈しない数十年であった。
Sorry again. Beatrice advanced her queen and made her final move. It was thus decided.
チェックメイト。これがわらわからそなたへの手向けだ。心置きなく眠れ。
Kinzo suddenly stood up and laughed like an opera singer facing a full crowd and spreading his arms, as though he had succeeded in a century-long plan. That laugh spat crimson. Crimson flames poured out from inside him, spitting even out of his mouth, ears, and nose, and all at once his body was wrapped in hellfire. But Kinzo kept laughing. The more he laughed, the more the hellfire spewed from his entire body and began to char him. Those flames became a brilliant light, which dazzlingly shone on the various magic tools throughout the room and made their distorted shadows dance across the walls. Those shadows looked like the dead in hell in ecstasy over Kinzo as he burned. And for one who had made a contract with the witch and who had reached the end of that contract, it was an extremely fitting end. Is this how he got burned in the first episode? But his body was just taken to the basement? I believe it's the basement. After laughing and howling in the roaring flames for some time, Kinzo flopped to the ground as though he was a puppet whose strings had been cut. Those incredible blazing flames disappeared as though they had burned up everything there was to burn. And afterwards, all that was left was a festering and burnt body that would make you want to avert your eyes.
Mukoi.
お前が言うか。ふさわしい死に方だと思っているくせに。
なぜお前が姿を現している？僕たちに何か用だとでも言うのか？
よしてカノン君。ベアトリーチェ様を挑発してはダメ。
すっかり怯えさせてしまいましたね。
わらわはつくづくカノンとは仲良くなれぬようだ。そう嫌いでもないというのにね。
Beatrice smiled broadly, or perhaps wickedly. Kanon violently averted his gaze, obviously disturbed. His reaction was so different from what he had obviously intended that it made the witch and her butler laugh.
カノン、ベアトリーチェ様の御前であるぞ。言葉遣いに気をつけなさい。
ああ、構わぬぞ源氏。好きに言わせてやれ。わらわは寛大である。
何が寛大だ。
わらわは死にゆく者にはいつだって寛大である。
Kanon was brought to a sudden realization by that creepy laughter. Beatrice's reason for being here was not just to take Kinzo's life. The first twilight required 6 sacrifices. Kinzo alone wasn't nearly enough. And they had just nonchalantly come to this place.
安心せよ、カノン。そなたらがここに訪れたから生贄に選ばれるのではない。生贄に選ばれているからこそ、ここに呼ばれているんじゃないか。
なんだと。
They instinctively figured it out immediately. 6 sacrifices were required for the first twilight. After Kinzo, how many more would you need to add up to 6? In this mansion, the number 5 instantly made them think of the number of servants here.
それがお望みですか。
感謝せよ、家具どもよ。そなたたちの苦難の日々は、今宵ようやく終わりを迎えた。それを告げに訪れたわらわに感謝せよ。
かしこまりました。それをお望みでしたら。
源氏様。
Genji had agreed to the witch's heartless announcement in his usual manner, without raising an eyebrow.
親方様亡き後は、ベアトリーチェ様が我らの主。その求めに応じるのが、我らの最後の務めだ。シャノ、カノ、今日までよく仕えた。その労苦もこれにて終わりだ。
源氏はさすがですね。同じ家具としてあなたを誇りに思いますよ。
シャノ、異論はないか。
はい。
ジョージ様から指輪を贈られたそうだな。それでもなお未練はないか。
はい。家具の身に過ぎた幸福でした。指輪を頂戴しただけで、私の思いはすでに達せられております。
Shannon had not yet reached as high of a philosophical state of mind as Genji. There probably really were regrets left in her heart. She probably wanted to spend a little more warm time with the person of her thoughts, George. But she released herself from that. She took a single deep breath, and from that point on, the expression she wore was blank.
それでよい。
シャノンがそこまでの落ち着きを得るとは、少し驚きでした。 あなたも家具として達観したようですね。
I prefer if they actually fought back a little bit.
惚れた男と夜も共にできず、少しは悔し涙をこぼさんのか。退屈な女よ。
ベアトリーチェ様ごときに、この気持ちはわかりません。私たちの命をご所望でしたら、どうぞお受け取りください。私たちは、慎んで、そのお務めを全うします。
それでいい。よくぞ言ったな。
ベアトリーチェ様の苦手なタイプのようで。
最近こやつめは、だいぶ達観しよった。どうも前回いじめすぎたようだ。それを言ったらバトラもか？わらわはまだぬるいのか？それとも追い詰め方が下手なのか？いずれにせよ、面白みのないやつよ。
Okay, so it's pretty obvious that Beatrice is aware that she's been messing with them in the previous episodes. That makes sense. Do the others know?
しかし、お前はまだわらわを楽しませてくれそうだよな。
I mean, I don't think they have, but it feels like they've innately become stronger. Slightly. Not like so apparent that it's obvious, but enough to know that there's been slight changes throughout the eps. Like right now, even Shannon's showing she's still, she's still mentally strong, but she's just not putting up a fight, the same fight that she did in episode 2.
Kanon?
Kanon is still Kanon though. That's great. I'm waiting for him to bring out his magical blade though.
カノン君。
Compared to the two who had attained the philosophical state of mind, there was a painful anguish on Kanon's face. Kanon was still far too young to accept his demise without regrets. After being told of it by a suddenly appearing witch,
カノン、わらわは退屈を何より嫌う。そしてお前を除く二人が素直に死を受け入れるもので面白くない。だからそなたにはわらわの期待を裏切らないでもらいたいものだ。
僕を慰み者にしようというのか。
Kanon realized that he was being provoked. However, no matter how much anger spurred him on, his opponent was a witch. He was furniture. He had no chance of victory from the beginning. But the witch was expecting that he would struggle in vain and writhe around, and was looking forward to it. Just thinking about that was frustrating enough to get his blood boiling. Was disappointing the witch by refusing to resist like the other two the only way he could strike back at her?
煉獄の七姉妹が長女、ルシファー。いでよ。
傲慢のルシファー、ここに。
カノン、家具に魔女と戦えというのも酷な話よ。そなたがいくら怒りに駆られようとも、勝算のない戦いでは希望も持てまい。無論、勝ち目のない戦いでは、わらわも退屈というもの。ならば、家具は家具。家具同士で決着をつけてはどうか。それならば、勝てる希望も持てるであろう。
恐れながらベアトリーチェ様。私がそのような出来損ないの家具に劣るようなことがありましょうか？こんな可愛い子に、私が万一にも負けるようなことなど。
我が家具、煉獄の七杭を打ち破ってみせよ。見事打ち破ってみせたなら、そうだな。13人の生贄を逃れることのできる5人を、そなたに自由に決めさせてやろう。そなたの推薦する5人を、わらわは無条件にて、黄金鏡に迎え入れる。それならばどうか？
Kanon understood that he was being provoked. However, the witch's condition was very tempting. The evil ritual the witch and the rest were trying to carry out was, at this point, not something that Kanon cared about in the slightest. On the contrary, it was much more important for him to survive, be invited to the Golden Land, and have his wish granted by Beatrice there.
そなたは家具は嫌だと泣いたな。そなたの望み、叶えてやろうぞ。枕を濡らしてまで望んだ人間の体を与えてやろうぞ。どうだ？そうすれば、ジェシカとも結ばれるぞ。おお、ちょうどよい。黄金鏡へ招ける5人に、ジェシカとソナタを推薦すればよい。自分だけが幸せになることに抵抗があるならば、さらに、シャノンと、その思い人であるジョージを加えればよい。義理があるならばさらに源氏も加えればよい。おお、これで5人だ。十分ではないか、カノン。これだけのご褒美があれば。そなたはわらわを退屈させはしないよな。
どうせ戯れよ。耳を貸す必要はない。
僕は嫌だ。姉さんはそれでいいの？
Beatrice couldn't hide her evil smile at those words.
僕は嫌だ。幸せになりたい。家具なんてもう嫌だ。人間になって、普通の恋がしたい。僕も姉さんのように、海が青いってことを知りたいんだ。
若いですね。羨ましい。
だから若者は好きなのだ。源氏、シャノンは下がれ。カノン、ルシファーは前へ。
仰せのままに。気に入らないわ。ベアトリーチェ様は無理でも。私にだったら勝てるかもしれないという見下しが最高に気に入らないわ。
That was probably humiliating to Lucifer. But at the same time, she was also happy that she was so lucky to have this lovely prey all to herself.
恋。魔女の家具。いつまでも僕を見くびることができると思うな。
Now here we go.
さあさ、バトラー。楽しい見せ物の時間であるぞ。
くそ。またおかしなことになりやがった。魔法バトルなんて認めてたまるかよ。
I was wondering if Battler was watching this because I would like to know what he would think, what he is thinking about this right now.
ほらほら、目をつむらずにちゃんと見ろよ。ほらほら、ほらほら。魔法だよ。家具だよ。そなたがどんなにわらわや魔法の存在を否定しようとも。ほらほら、ほらほらほらほら。こうして目の前でブオンブオンカキンカキンやられちゃ台無しだよな。ほらほら、ほらほら。魔法はあるんだって。これはファンタジーなんだって。目を閉じるなよ。しっかり見ろよ。ほらほらほらほらほら。
Alright guys, I'm gonna end the video here for today. Thank you all for watching. We're finally getting to the meat of this episode with the fight between Kanon and Lucifer. So if anything, we're going to continue on in the next one. So thank you all for watching.